The room was silent. Only the soft sound of machines filled the air. Screens were glowing in the dark control center. On one screen, the moon looked calm, quiet, and lifeless. From far away, it seemed peaceful. But the people in the room knew the truth. Something was very wrong. A senior NASA officer stood still, staring at the screen. His face was tense. His hands were tight. For months, they had been watching the moon, studying it, scanning it, and now, the data was impossible to ignore. The moon was hiding something big, very big. For decades, humans believed the moon was just a dead rock, a silent neighbor in space. But the latest signals told a different story. Deep under the moon's surface, there were rare minerals. Minerals so powerful that they could change the future of Earth. The value was shocking. Almost $900 billion, and Earth desperately needed it. On Earth, energy was running out. Fuel was getting expensive. Pollution was rising. Cities were growing. Power plants were failing. Governments were worried. Scientists were under pressure. The world was moving fast. But the resources were slowing down. Time was running out. That is when the call was made. A red phone on the table started to ring. It had not been used in years. Everyone in the room turned their heads. The sound felt heavy. Like a warning, the officer slowly picked it up. "This is NASA." "Command," he said. Deep voice replied from the other side. "We need the moon." The line went silent. That one sentence changed everything. Within hours, emergency meetings were called. Scientists, engineers, and space experts rushed into the building. No cameras. No press. This mission was not for the public. Not yet. A large screen showed a simple image of the moon. White, gray, silent. A scientist stepped forward. He spoke slowly, using simple words. "Inside the moon, there is a rare material called helium-3, he said. "On Earth, it is almost impossible to find. On the moon, it is everywhere." The room grew quiet. Helium-3 was not just another mineral. It could create clean energy. No smoke, no pollution. Enough power for millions of homes. Enough power to save Earth's future. Another scientist added, "If we can mine it, Earth's energy problem can end." But then came the hard truth. The moon was not easy. There was no air, no water, no protection. The temperature could kill in seconds. The dust was sharp and dangerous. Machines failed easily. Humans could not survive without perfect planning. Mining the moon was not like mining on Earth. It was a risk, a very big risk. One officer asked the question everyone was thinking. Why now? The answer was simple, because Earth had no other choice. Years ago, NASA left the moon. Budgets were cut. Missions were canceled. The world moved on. But the moon never changed. It waited, silent, patient. Now it was calling back. A new plan was formed. Not just exploration. This time, it was extraction. Real mining. Real danger. Only the best astronauts would go. Not just pilots. Not just scientists. They needed people who could survive fear. People who could make decisions in seconds. People who could face death and keep going. Far away, in different parts of the world, selected astronauts received the same message. Report to base immediately. No explanation. No details. Just urgency. One astronaut stood alone in his room, staring at the message on his device. He had trained for space his whole life. He had dreamed of the moon as a child. But this mission felt different. This mission felt final. He looked at the night sky through his window. The moon was bright, calm, beautiful. It did not look dangerous. But he knew better. Back at NASA, engineers worked day and night. New suits were designed, stronger, smarter, New machines were tested. Drills that could work in zero gravity. Robots that could survive extreme cold and heat. Every mistake could mean death. Every delay could mean failure. The pressure was enormous. One small team studied old Apollo mission data. Footprints from decades ago. Dust samples. Broken equipment. Even back then, the moon had caused problems. Now, humans were planning to dig into it. Some people were scared. Some were excited. But everyone understood one thing. This mission would change history. If they failed, billions of dollars would be lost. Trust would be broken. Lives would be gone. But if they succeeded, Earth would never be the same again. Late at night, when the building was almost empty, the senior officer returned to the control room. He looked at the moon on the screen once more. He whispered, "We are coming back." The moon said nothing. But deep under its surface, hidden in the dust and darkness, lay the future of humanity. And soon, humans would risk everything to take it. The moon had always been there. Every night, it watched Earth in silence. It saw wars, cities, and civilizations rise and fall. It never moved closer. It never moved away. It only waited. Now, for the first time in history, humans were not looking at the moon with curiosity. They were looking at it with need. Inside a secured room, far below ground level, a digital number glowed on the screen. $900 billion. $900 billion. That was the estimated value hidden beneath the moon's surface. But this number was not just money. It was power. It was survival. A lead analyst spoke to the group. His voice was calm, but his words were heavy. "This is not about becoming rich," he said. "This is about staying alive." Earth was in trouble. Power stations were closing. Fuel prices were rising. Some countries were already facing long blackouts. Cities went dark at night. Hospitals struggled to stay open. Scientists warned that the energy crisis was no longer coming. It had already begun. Moon offered a solution, but the solution had a cost. Helium-3, a rare, invisible gas trapped in the moon's soil. On Earth, helium-3 was almost impossible to find. But on the moon, billions of years of solar wind had filled the surface with it. One small container of helium-3 could power a city for months. No smoke. No fire. No pollution. Perfect energy. But perfection was never easy. Scientists showed a simple animation on the screen. It showed how helium-3 was buried inside moon dust, mixed with sharp particles and rock. "To get it," she explained, "we must heat the soil to very high temperatures. Machines must work perfectly. One failure and the system shuts down." Someone asked quietly, "What happens then?" She paused. "Then the astronauts are trapped." Silence filled the room. This mission was not like Apollo. Apollo was about flags and footprints. This mission was about digging. About staying longer. About going deeper. The moon was not welcoming. It had no air to breathe. No sky to protect. No atmosphere to stop deadly radiation from space. Every second on the surface exposed the human body to danger. The dust was worse. Moon dust was sharp like glass. It stuck to everything. Suits, tools, skin. In the past, it damaged equipment and made astronauts sick. Now, humans were planning to disturb it on a massive scale. Back on Earth, not everyone agreed with the plan. Some experts warned, "We are not ready." Others said, "We have no choice." Private companies watched closely. Countries watched even closer. Whoever controlled moon mining would control future energy. This was not just science. This was politics. This was power. Late one evening, a small team reviewed emergency scenarios. Loss of communication. Machine failure. Medical emergencies. Solar storms. The list was long. Too long. One engineer finally spoke. Are we asking too much from the moon? No one answered. Because deep down, everyone knew the truth. Humans had already taken everything from Earth. Now, they were looking up. Far away, an astronaut training center was alive with activity. Selected astronauts were pushed beyond their limits. Long hours. No sleep. High-pressure tests. One astronaut collapsed during training. Medics rushed in. He was carried away silently. The mission did not stop. It could not. At night, the astronauts lay in their beds, staring at the ceiling. They thought about their families, about Earth, about the moon. Some felt fear. Some felt pride. But all of them felt the same. Question inside. Is this worth dying for? Meanwhile, scientists continued to receive strange data from lunar satellites. Heat signatures, chemical readings, patterns they did not fully understand. The moon was not just a rock. It was complex, unpredictable, almost alive. One report ended with a single line. We may not fully understand what we are about to disturb. The senior NASA officer read the report alone. He closed the file and leaned back. For the first time, doubt crossed his mind. But then he remembered Earth, the dark cities. The failing power, grids, the future without energy. And he made the decision. The mission would continue. The moon was no longer a dream. It was a necessity. As Earth rotated into night, millions of people looked up and saw the moon shining peacefully. They had no idea what was being planned. No idea that deep below its surface lay the key to their future. Or their destruction. The moon remained silent, but the countdown had already begun. Before the first rocket was built, something else happened. Fear. Not loud fear. Not panic. But a quiet fear that stayed inside the minds of the people who knew the truth. The moon mission had not launched yet, but it had already started to change lives. Inside a white training facility, the astronauts moved like machines. Every step was timed. Every breath was measured. Every mistake was recorded. There was no room for emotion. Because emotion could get them killed. One astronaut stood inside a small metal chamber. The door slowly closed. Air pressure dropped. Lights dimmed. The temperature changed suddenly. This was not the moon, but it was close enough. A voice came through a speaker. Imagine you are alone. Communication is lost. Help is 384,000 kilometers away. The astronaut closed his eyes. This was the real test, not the body, the mind. NASA psychologists watched carefully. They did not look for strength. They looked for cracks. Who panics? Who freezes? Who breaks in silence? Because on the moon, silence was deadly. Far away from the training center, scientists argued behind closed doors. New data from lunar orbiters did not match old maps. Some areas showed strange density, heavy zones under the surface, more minerals than expected, or something else. One scientist whispered, "What if we wake something we don't understand?" The room went quiet. The moon had been untouched for billions of years. Now, humans wanted to dig. History showed one clear lesson. When humans dig without understanding, there is always a price. In another building, engineers tested a new lunar drill. It spun slowly, cutting through simulated moon soil. Suddenly, the drill stopped. Error. They tried. Again. Error. The machine overheated. An engineer removed his helmet and wiped sweat from his face. This soil behaves differently, he said. The moon was not cooperating. Meanwhile, selected astronauts were told a rule. You are not heroes, the commander said. You are workers. You dig. You extract. You survive. No flags. No speeches. Just work. One astronaut asked quietly, "What if something goes wrong?" The commander looked at him. Then you fix it, he said, or you don't come back. That night, one astronaut recorded a private message. It was not sent. It was saved. If anyone hears this, he said softly, know that we didn't come for glory. We came because Earth asked us to. On Earth, people continued their normal lives. Lights turned on. Cars moved. Screens glowed. They did not see the warnings. They did not feel the pressure. They did not know that a few people were carrying the future of billions on their shoulders. A final simulation was run. Loss of oxygen. Loss of power. Loss of gravity control. One by one, systems failed. The astronauts reacted fast. Too fast. Almost like they were already there. Watching from behind the glass, a senior scientist whispered, "They are ready." But ready for what? No one could truly answer that. The moon was still an unknown. The night before the launch date was confirmed, the senior NASA officer stood alone again. The moon filled the screen in front of him. He remembered the desperate call. We need the moon. Now he wondered if the moon needed them too. Or if it would reject them. The launch schedule appeared on the screen. No turning back. Once the first step was taken, the world would change. The moon would no longer be distant. It would become personal. And somewhere deep beneath its silent surface, something waited. Not awake. Not asleep. Just waiting. The rocket did not roar forever. After fire, noise and shaking, there was silence. Deep silence. The astronauts floated in their seats. Outside the window, Earth was no longer big. It was shrinking. Blue. Fragile. No one spoke. They all knew this moment. Once Earth became small, there was no easy return. Days passed in space. Time felt strange. There was no up or down. No morning or night. Only mission checks and quiet breathing inside helmets. Then the moon appeared. Not beautiful. Not friendly. It looked sharp. Gray. Cold. Moon did not welcome them. It simply existed. The lander moved slowly, carefully. Every movement was controlled. Every second was dangerous. Dust clouds rose as the lander touched the surface. Contact confirmed. They were there. For a moment, no one moved. No cheering. No smiles. Only heartbeats. One astronaut looked at the ground through the small window. This was not history like before. No cameras for the world. No live broadcast. This was work. Hard work. The hatch opened. Cold rushed in. The first astronaut stepped down carefully. His boot touched the moon. The surface did not feel soft. It felt dry. Dead. The dust moved like smoke, but settled fast. It clung to everything. This was the moment humans became miners on another world. Moon felt human weight again. But this time, humans did not come to leave footprints. They came to dig. The astronauts moved slowly. Gravity was weak. Every step felt wrong. One mistake could send them flying. The silence was heavy. No wind. No sound. Only radio breathing. Tools were placed carefully. Machines were activated. Small robotic units moved ahead, scanning the ground. Then something unexpected happened. One sensor showed higher mineral levels than planned. Much higher. The readings were off the chart. The control room on Earth froze. Confirm. Data. Someone said. The astronaut repeated the scan. Same result. The moon was richer than expected. This should have been good news. But it made the mission more dangerous. Because now they had to go deeper. The drill was prepared. This was the most critical moment so far. The drill touched the surface and began to spin. Dust flew everywhere. The fine particles stuck to the suits, covering them in gray. The moon resisted. The drill slowed. Power levels Dropped. Engineers on Earth watched the numbers fall. Stop. Drilling, came the command. 2. Late. The drill jammed. For 3 seconds. No one spoke. 3 seconds felt like forever. If the drill broke, the mission would fail. Slowly, the drill started again. Everyone exhaled, but the message was clear. The moon would not give up its treasure. Easily. As hours passed, astronauts felt the pressure. Not just physical, mental. The suits were heavy. The air was limited. Radiation levels slowly increased. Sun was rising higher. Time was running out. One astronaut reported something strange. Ground temperature was changing faster than expected. Cooling systems struggled. Machines overheated. The moon was unpredictable. Back on Earth, a scientist whispered, "This environment is more hostile than our models." Models did not matter now. Reality had arrived. As the astronauts worked, Earth hung in the sky above them, bright, alive, full of air and water. So close, yet unreachable. One astronaut paused and looked at it. Inside his helmet, his face was calm, but his thoughts were loud. If something goes wrong, he thought, Earth cannot help us fast. Suddenly, a warning alarm sounded. Oxygen usage higher than normal. Heart rates elevated. Stress levels rising. The moon was testing them. Control ordered an early shutdown. Reluctantly, the astronauts stopped. They collected samples and sealed them. Not enough, but enough to prove one thing. Moon held what Earth needed. As they returned to the lander, dust followed them. It entered joints, seals, and tools. The moon was coming with them. Inside the lander, the hatch closed. Only then did someone speak. We survived day 1. But no one celebrated, because day 1 was easy. The real danger had just begun. Outside, the moon remained unchanged. Cold. Silent. Watching. The moon did not attack. It did not shake. It did not explode. It did not warn. It waited. Inside the lander, the astronauts removed their helmets slowly. Their faces were tired. Dust covered their suits like gray ash. The air felt heavy, even with oxygen flowing. No one smiled. No one joked. Day 1 was over. But everyone felt it. Something was wrong. The moon dust. It was everywhere. The dust entered the joints of the suits. It covered tools. It floated inside the lander like smoke. Tiny particles scratched surfaces. Filters struggled to keep up. One engineer on Earth spoke calmly, but his voice showed concern. The dust is more aggressive than expected. Aggressive was a soft word. Moon dust was sharp. It was not smooth like Earth sand. It was broken glass, crushed by billions of years, without air or water. Every movement made it worse. The astronauts tried to clean their suits, but the dust stayed. It stuck to gloves. It stuck to seals. It stuck to skin. And then the first warning appeared. Suit pressure. Instability. A small number on the screen blinked yellow. Not red. Not yet. One astronaut checked the seal on his arm. It looked fine. But the dust was inside. The moon was finding its way in. Hours passed. The lander grew warm. Cooling systems worked harder. Power levels dropped slowly. Nothing dramatic. But tension rose. One astronaut reported breathing faster. Another felt dizzy. Stress levels increased. The moon was not killing them. It was tiring them. On Earth, doctors watched heart rates climb. They saw small changes. Tiny signals that meant danger later. A doctor whispered, "This environment is breaking them slowly." Outside, night fell on the moon. Temperatures dropped fast, extremely fast. Metal contracted. Systems adjusted. The lander made quiet cracking sounds as it reacted to the cold. No one slept well. Dreams were short. Heavy. One astronaut dreamed of dust filling his helmet. He woke up gasping, touching his neck. The moon followed them even in sleep. The next work cycle began early. Control wanted more samples. More data. Time was limited. The astronauts suited up again. The dust resisted. Seals felt tighter. Movements were slower. One astronaut paused before opening the hatch. He hesitated. This was not fear. It was instinct. Outside? The moon waited. They stepped out again. This time, the silence felt louder. The drill was deployed again. It worked for a short time. Then the motor temperature spiked. Warning alarms. Read this time. Shut it down, came the command. The drill stopped. A cloud of dust floated around them, glowing under the sun. The dust was alive now. It moved into joints, vents, and sensors. One astronaut noticed his glove responding. Slower. He flexed his fingers. Delayed. Response. Report, Control asked. Minor. Issue, he replied, but his voice was tense. Collected more samples, but faster now. Movements were rushed. Breathing was heavier. Radiation levels increased. The sun was angry today. Control made the decision. Abort surface operations. Immediately. As they returned, one astronaut stumbled. Low gravity made balance difficult. His hand hit the surface. Dust covered his glove. Inside the suit, alarm screamed. Seal breach risk. His heart rate spiked. Control shouted instructions. He froze for 1 second. 1 second too long. Then training took over. He stood up. Moved fast. Reached the lander. The hatch closed. Silence. Inside. No one spoke. Everyone knew. That was close. Too close. Engineers checked suit data. The dust had damaged the outer layer. Not enough to kill, but enough to scare. The moon had shown its teeth. Later, as Earth rose again in the black sky, one astronaut stared at it. He recorded another private message. The moon is not empty, he said softly. It fights back in its own way. Back on Earth. Senior officials reviewed the data. The mission was working, but the cost was rising. Risk was rising faster. One official asked the question no one wanted to answer. How long can humans survive this? No one replied, because the moon had not even shown its worst side yet. Deep beneath the surface, where drills had only just touched, greater dangers waited. And the astronauts had to go there next. The mission had crossed a line. No one said it out loud, but everyone felt it. The moon was no longer a workplace. It had become a trap. Inside the lander, warning lights blinked softly. Power reserves were lower than planned. Filters were clogged with dust. Cooling systems struggled to keep temperatures. Stable. Earth noticed everything. Your margin is shrinking, Control said. The astronauts already knew. This was the last planned extraction window. If they failed now, the mission would end with almost nothing. If they continued, someone might not return. A decision had to be made. The commander looked at his team. No long speeches. No debate. We go once more, he said. No one argued. They suited up again. This time, the suits felt heavier. Movements were slower. Dust resisted every joint like it wanted to stay. When the hatch opened, the moon greeted them with blinding light. The sun was high. Radiation levels were rising faster than expected. Time was short. The new extraction unit was deployed. Smaller, faster, riskier. This unit would heat the soil to release helium-3 gas. A process never tested on this scale. The machine started. At first, everything looked normal. Then the temperature spiked. Higher. Reduce output. Earth ordered. The system did not respond. The unit kept heating. Ground around it began to glow faintly. Sensors screamed. Warnings. Thermal overload. Structural stress. Then it happened. Sudden release of gas, that the ground cracked slightly. Not an explosion, but enough. The shock knocked one astronaut off balance. He floated backward, slamming into equipment. His oxygen lines stretched tight. For one terrifying moment, it almost snapped. Controls shouted instructions. The astronaut struggled, trying to stabilize. Low gravity made everything worse. His heartbeat filled the radio channel. "I'm losing control," he said. Training kicked in. Another astronaut pushed off the surface, grabbed him, and anchored both of them. They were safe. Barely. The extraction unit shut down automatically. Smoke like dust rose around them. The moon was angry now. Inside the lander, systems overloaded. Power dropped sharply. The lander shook slightly. Not from movement, from stress. Engineers on Earth stared at their screens. "If we lose power," one whispered, "we lose them." Emergency protocols activated. Non-essential systems shut down. Lights dimmed. Silence returned. The astronauts sat still, breathing slowly, saving oxygen. Minutes passed. Then power stabilized. A collective breath was released across two worlds. Data from the extraction unit finally came through. Helium-3. Confirmed. Pure. High concentration. The moon had given them what they came for, but at a cost. The extraction damaged the surrounding area. More dust, more instability. The site was no longer safe. Control made the final call. Surface operations end. Prepare for departure. There was no disappointment, only relief. As they prepared the samples for storage, one astronaut touched the container gently. This small box held the future of Earth, or the reason humans would never return here. Outside, the moon looked unchanged. Calm. Silent. Like nothing had happened. But the astronauts knew better. They had crossed the point of no return. This mission proved one thing: humans could mine the moon. But survival was not guaranteed. As the lander engines prepared to fire, the commander looked one last time at the surface. "We took what we needed," he said quietly, "but the moon will remember." The engines ignited. Dust exploded outward. The lander rose slowly, leaving behind disturbed soil and broken silence. The moon returned to being alone, but not untouched. Not anymore. The moon mission was still in space. But the impact had already reached Earth. Inside a secure control room, the confirmation message appeared on the screen. Helium-3 successfully extracted. For 3 seconds, no one spoke. Then the room exploded with movement. Phones rang. Screens lit up. Doors opened and closed fast. Messages were sent across the world. The impossible had become real. Humans had mined this moon. The information did not stay secret for long. Satellites noticed unusual activity. Energy signatures were detected. Data leaks happened. Analysts connected the dots. Within hours, governments started asking questions. And the biggest question was simple: who owns the moon? In one capital city, a closed-door meeting was called. No flags, no cameras. Only power. An official spoke first. "If Helium-3 is real," he said, "then whoever controls it controls the future." Another replied, "The moon belongs to everyone." A third laughed softly. "Nothing belongs to everyone," he said, "especially not something this valuable." Across the world, similar meetings happened. Different languages. Same fear. If one country controlled moon energy, others would depend on it. Dependence meant weakness. Weakness meant danger. Private companies entered the discussion. Billionaires saw opportunity. Corporations saw profit. Lawyers opened old space. Treaties and searched for loopholes. The rules were unclear. The laws were old. They were written when humans only dreamed of mining the moon. Now the dream was real. On screens across Earth, News channels began to speculate. Experts argued. Headlines screamed, "New space gold rush." Moon. Energy could end oil. Race. For lunar power begins. People were confused. Some were hopeful. Some were scared. Looked up at the moon at night and saw something. Different now. Not beauty. Not mystery. Ownership. Inside the returning spacecraft. The astronauts knew nothing of this chaos. They focused on survival. Systems were stable, but damage from dust and heat was clear. Small failures appeared. Tiny warnings. Nothing critical. Yet. One engineer on Earth whispered, "We pushed the limits." Another replied, "And now the world wants more." As the spacecraft traveled closer to Earth, political pressure increased. Leaders demanded access to data. Allies asked for samples. Rivals demanded transparency. NASA received one message marked, "Urgent. Share extraction results." Immediately. The senior officer stared at the message. He did not respond, because sharing the data meant starting something that could not be. Stop. Back in space. An astronaut floated near the sample container. He stared at it quietly. "This is just dirt," he said. Everyone knew the truth. This dirt could change. Wars, economies, power. Or destroy balance forever. A new proposal appeared on Earth. Permanent moon bases, continuous mining, armed protection. Idea scared some scientists. The moon is not a battlefield. One warned, but history showed a pattern. Where resources go, conflict follows. The moon was no exception. As Earth grew larger in the spacecraft window, alarms sounded briefly. A minor system failure. Quickly fixed, but it reminded everyone. The mission was not over yet. On Earth, protests began. Some people demanded moon protection. Others demanded energy access. Some feared humans were repeating the same mistakes they made on Earth. Taking without understanding. Using without limits. One scientist spoke on a quiet channel. "We are turning the moon into another Earth problem." No one listened, because power was louder. As re-entry preparations began, Control gave the astronauts new instructions. Upon landing, samples will be secured immediately. No celebration. No public appearance. Security first. The astronauts exchanged looks. They understood. This mission had become bigger than science. Bigger than survival. It was now about control. The moon was no longer distant. It was claimed. And once something is claimed, it is never peaceful again. Far above Earth, the moon watched silently. Unchanged. Unbodhered. But no longer ignored. Humans had taken the first piece. Now the question was, what would they take next? The spacecraft entered Earth's atmosphere in silence. Fire surrounded it. Heat screamed across its surface. Inside, the astronauts sat still. They had faced the moon. Fire no longer scared them. When the capsule finally hit the ocean, waves swallowed it gently. Recovery teams moved fast. No cheers, no cameras, no flags, only control. The samples were removed first, before the astronauts. On land, in a secured facility, the small containers were placed behind thick glass. Scientists stood quietly, staring at them. Moon dust. Helium-3. The future. Tests confirmed everything. Pure. Stable. Powerful. The room filled with quiet fear. Because now, there was no turning back. Within months, the world changed. Energy markets reacted. Old fuels lost value. New plans were announced. Governments spoke about clean future and space cooperation. But behind closed doors, the tone was different. Ownership. Control. Defense. That the moon was discussed like land, like oil, like territory. New missions were planned. Faster, bigger, more aggressive. This time, not just scientists, security teams, private companies, military, advisors. The moon was no longer a dream. It was a target. One scientist resigned quietly. Before leaving, he wrote a message. "We came to the moon to save Earth," it read. "But we brought Earth with us." On the moon, machines returned. Drones landed. Drills went deeper. Dust rose again. The surface changed. Slowly, irreversibly. Radiation patterns shifted. Thermal balance changed. Some satellites noticed strange effects. Minor, but real. The moon was reacting. Not emotionally. Physically. No. One paid attention. Energy from helium-3 reached Earth. Cities lit up. Pollution dropped. People celebrated. Humanity felt proud. Victorious. But something else happened. Dependence. Earth began to depend on the moon. Independence always comes with fear. What if supply stopped? What if someone controlled it? What if the moon became unstable? Questions were ignored. Because power was flowing. Years later, a new generation grew up seeing the moon differently. Not as mystery. Not as poetry. As a resource. As infrastructure. As property. One night, a child asked a simple question. Why does the moon look different? The surface was scarred now. Tiny marks. Artificial lights visible in darkness. The moon had fingerprints. Human fingerprints. Final report crossed global networks quietly. Long-term mining could affect the moon's orbit. Not today. Not tomorrow. But one day. Small changes. Big consequences. Earth's tides. Climate balance. Stability. The report was marked low priority. Because the lights were on. And humanity felt safe. Far away. The moon remained silent. It had seen this before. On Earth, civilizations, taking too much, listening too late. The moon did not hate humans. It did not love them. It simply remembered. And one day, when the cost became too high, the silence would speak. Until then, the moon watched. And humanity kept digging. End of series.